it okay if I get started?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to the Senior Capstone Product Showcase. This is really the pinnacle of these students' four-year degree here. The Capstone class runs for 2 quarters, so 6 months. The students here have been working really hard in teams to create some really amazing software. So we're really proud of everyone here tonight and really excited to share that with our guests. Hopefully we'll have a few more guests popping in on Zoom here. My name is Tina. I've been a part of the bachelor's degree in software development here at Green River for 10 years since its inception. And I'm really excited to see, what cohort are you? 19, cohort 19. So that's our 19th batch of graduates, and they'll be graduating tomorrow. So that's really, really exciting. And it's really fun for me. I love this program because I've had a lot of these students for 4 years, many for at least 2 years. So it's really exciting to see the growth and the evolution and the development, both technically and professionally in terms of teamwork and communication. So we're really excited to share with you all. Green River does offer a bachelor's degree in software development, and we're really, really proud of the work that we're doing and the work that our students are doing. So welcome everybody, students and guests. And with that, I think, are we ready? Do you want to talk about Mint now? Or?
Yeah, I can do it real quick. So yeah, there's 2 types of projects that you're going to see presented here tonight. The first, I think 6-ish, are projects that we do for clients. That could be client projects for non-technical clients who have some software needs. That might be a local business. It might be other departments or staff or faculty here at Green River College, or it might be like a nonprofit organization or something like that. We've done all of those in the past. In those projects, students work with non-technical clients, and the client comes in with some kind of problem or business need or ask in some digital space, and the students, work from there to solve that problem, whatever it is. There's a lot of working with the client and understanding what they need and developing the right tool for them. The second type of project that you will see is our Mint projects. We did in collaboration with Mentors in Tech. These are open source projects. And when I say open source, what I mean is there's tooling that exists out there that is maintained by professional developers. These projects can often be very, very large and have big community support and be used by potentially hundreds of thousands of users. The students who took on roles in these projects might have done smaller contributions, but they're contributing to a professional code base. Opening PRs, things are getting reviewed by actual engineers, and it mirrors more closely the work they would do in the professional setting. So when they get their small feature is approved, it's gone through the entire process of the software engineering lifecycle, and is at a sort of professional level. So those are the 2 types of projects you'll see here, which is why some things look like people built an entire site, and some things look like people built just like one little widget on something. They're both a lot of work to do in their own different ways. So just be aware of that. All right. I think that's everything.
Who are you?
I'm Keller Flint. I'm one of the instructors of this program for the Capstone here, and I teach some other things here. Associate faculty at Green River College, and a former graduate of this program actually, a couple years back now. So now I'll stop talking. I'll leave it to our first team here. So if you guys want to come up.
Hello, everybody. My name's Jovan. Over here we have Brandon, and on that side we have Ming. And today we're going to share our project, which is the Anthropology Inventory Manager. To start, we're going to give a little background on the project. The idea was originally brought to us by Madeline, who's an instructor at Green River College within the anthropology department. We worked with her over the past 2 quarters with the goal of creating an application to help the department better manage their collection of artifacts. Some of the main points that we wanted to address with this application was keeping track of the over 150 different artifacts they have in their collection. At the time, they were using Excel, which can be a good tool, but for their specific use case, wasn't the best. 2, we wanted to improve the way that they enter the data and keep track of it over time. So rather than inputting stuff in cells, we wanted to provide them with forms that had features that would streamline this process. And third, it was kind of hard to know what exactly they had at the time. So they would have to physically actually visit the building and look through cabinets and drawers and either find it or not find it. So we wanted to improve that by making the website as what's the word, dynamic as possible. So we included things like charts that broke down what was in the inventory and search bars so that they could quickly search through the database.
So our solution to the department's needs was to create the anthropology inventory website. Using the power of 4 different cloud hosting providers, which you can see at the top of the slide here, we're able to create a lightweight, secure, custom fit, and fully cloud hosted solution for our client. And best of all, it's free. That being said, let's hop right into our demonstration here. So starting off with our, zoom in here real quick. So starting off with our user login form, as you can see, it's a pretty simple form. They have a field for an email and a password. And something to note here real quick is that we've implemented a form of route security. So if you try to access any other page without being logged in, it will not let you. So let's see, going to the dashboard here, nope, won't let you in. So let's go ahead and get logged in here.
Actually, zoom out a little bit. Image.
You can minimize that zoom window if you want.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, that'll probably be perfect. All right, so upon a successful login, the user will gain access to the dashboard here. We wanted to provide data at a glance. So on one side, you have kind of the financial information, such as collection costs and collection value. On the other, we have like recently updated or recently added artifacts. Here at the bottom, we have a breakdown of the different categories of things being stored. Right now, it's one solid color because all we have are fossils. And then if we scroll back up to the top, we have a search bar where you can search through the database and 2 separate buttons here, one for viewing and then one for adding, which we'll take a look at right now.
We have the add fossils thing, which has a real structure of input fields grouped together for easier understanding of what you will put in the input fields. Each of the input fields have validation, and for some of the input fields, we have a drop down for easier choosing, like country found, for example, instead of typing out. And once added, we will view it in the view inventory. Here in the view inventory on the left side, you will have a sidebar, which allows you to create categories, which you can click on to view a certain group of data, or if you're trying to find a specific data, you can use the main search bar to search for a type of fossil you want to find. And each of the fossils all have a delete button, and they also have a edit button. And for editing, you'll see a similar page, like the add fossil, but all the input fields will be inputted with the old data that's already there for you to update. And then each of the fossils in the view onto inventory can also be selected, so you can view all of the information of them.
So let's say you're done for the day. You've made all the changes that you've wanted to. All you have to do is now log out,
Brought back here.
brought back to the login page.
And now that we're logged out, we're going to switch back to the presentation and kind of talk about next steps. So our client, Madeline, expressed interest in continuing the project. Her main goal was to add an interactive portion for students. So this would include like 3D models of the fossils or whatever is being stored. And she kind of wanted to incorporate this into lesson plans. And us personally, we thought it was a great idea and thought it would be fun for future students to work on in the capstone. And with that, I'd like to conclude our presentation and open it up to any questions.
What was most technically challenging of working on this? You have obviously a full stack application in like the truest sense of the word. It goes all over the place. What was the most difficult for you in managing that?
think as Brandon mentioned, combining all those different resources together to get something that was free was probably the most difficult.
It was a real pain to get everything to
Yeah.
talk to each other properly.
Yeah. 'Cause, originally it was a local application and then we decided to switch over to this. And that was kind of a difficult process, making that switch.
Were there any limitations to some of their free services that we?
The biggest limitation for us was Mongo Database Atlas. They offer a free hosted version of their database, and the issue with the free one is that you only get 512 megabytes of data storage. Now, for our project, our client wanted to store images associated with the specimens in their collection. So the problem with that is if we add images into that database specifically, that only give us like 50 things they can put in before they run out of space. So we had to find another form of free image hosting to get around that.
Which is what the cloud thing was for.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much. Okay.
We worked on the AI Business Advisor. I'm Andrew, this is Abdul. So our goal here was to create a tool that small business advisors and small business owners could use to answer some of the questions they might have when dealing with a small business. Questions that instead of creating an appointment with an advisor, they could ask this, it's like a chat bot. They could ask it 24/7 and get an immediate response, which would save time for the users and for the advisors because they're avoiding having to create an appointment for something that could have been answered through this. It works through the Gemini API, which is an AI tool that allows text. You can ask it a question and it will evaluate your question and give you an answer. So here I have sort of a diagram that shows a question that's being asked by a user, which is then passed on from the interface that the user is using to the API, which uses a prompt to keep it on, keep the answer relevant, and it evaluates a question and generates a response based off of the question, and then returns that response to the interface for the user to be able to see it, and the user can respond to it or have it, respond with any concerns or questions that they might have based on that. We have a live demo here. So this is the homepage. You can just copy them. I'll just copy one of these example questions, but you can ask it any business related question you have. Enter that here. It takes a second, but it will respond with its best response for the question. So it gives you a whole step-by-step response for the question. So I said, how should I evaluate different suppliers for my restaurant? And it gave me multiple phases, and within each phase, it has multiple details about what some considerations you might want to have are. We have a contact page. This sends information to the owner's email, and from there he can respond to those, and it'll go directly to the person who sent the contact request. And an About Us page that just has a little bit of information about what this project is and really what the purpose of it is.
And also wanted to people go back.
Yeah.
One thing, because the response speed and the style of response can be very different. We've got with 3 different models, actually 4 different models, where user, if they want a brief version of a response based on a question, let's say a math question was 2 + 2, they don't need to have long explanation. They can simply select the fast respond, it'll just get, the chatbot will provide the direct answer for that it should be for. And then we've got the other response for, research or, more descriptive detailed respond. And also it comes with dark mode, which kind of, so people prefer dark mode. And then any question you ask, it was kind of like tracking the time for the question that by the time it's being asked. And then I guess the contact us page is using email.js, a third party, where we use that for sending emails to the client. So basically this form will be filled out by users if they wanted to get in touch, ask any questions, book appointments, send emails, or talk to a human rather than chat. So they could simply put their first and full name, just first and last name, or maybe first name and then email, and then their message. Well, it's validated. The email is required because when the user sends that email to one of the advisors and admin receives that email, they're able to, the admin is able to just reply back to that email and we'll go back to the email that they put here. So this is an example. The form was filled out. Andrew Henson was the full name, and basically it filters out new response from contact form. And again, the name is going to be there. And then the email will be here. And then this is the body of the email. And then it's not going to go to the spam folder or any other folder. And then the admin can simply just reply back to that email within that email. So it does not need to be back to the chatbot, just simply in the email. Hello, I got this, and this will go back to this email.
Have any
That was
questions?
everything. Any questions?
You talk about which services or key packages you use to do all this. How did you talk to the LLMs and did you host this? Like that slide that the other two.
Well, it's currently live. Yes, we already hosted. So
Versa, yeah.
through Versal, it's hosted. There's no custom domain yet, but it's live. Anybody can access it, and it's also mobile friendly. On any device, it's gonna have a different version of it. And we use Google Gemini API for the response. So there were like 4 different the respond model, and each are different model of Google Gemini. So we've got Gemini 1.0 Flush and 2.0 Pro, which the Flush one is more fast, which takes milliseconds to respond, but more brief, versus the 2.0 Pro kind of takes a little bit of time, but more details and descriptive of the response. Other question?
I don't know if you guys mentioned it, but how do you stay student access?
It's there's no login functionality or anything, so yeah, it would be, it would just be a link that'd be shared with, I don't know, if you could put it on the small business center webpage, or however the client wants to share that link.
And then chatbot itself has access, links users to the actual small business center.
Mhm.
So on the contact us page at the very bottom, where people want to contact, there's a different way of contacting where they could just go directly to the website of small business center, GRC, the small business center, and that's linked as the footer on the very bottom of the contact us page.
Can I see another question?
You made this for the business center, but could you technically change this to meeting other specifications?
Simply by changing the model, yes, we change the model, backend model, and then
And the prompt.
yeah, make it customized for anything else.
I believe your client was non-technical, right? So business. How was it working with the non-technical client? Did you have any struggles, or how was the process of working with them to implement this?
It wasn't, I think the main thing was just being able to sort of communicate that what sort of the work goes into it behind the scenes, sort of trying not to overpromise. because, a lot of non-technical clients don't realize, how much work something might take. So they start getting, ideas and they're like, well, what if we had this? And so just being like, well, let's, get sort of something working first, and then we can look at what we want to add.
Any other questions? Awesome, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We're Team Bite Branch. We're working with the Forestry Club to create the volunteer hours tracker. So I'm Pedro.
I'm Yadira.
And I'm Eric.
So what is the Forestry Club? They are affiliated with Green River. It's about connecting with nature. And a little bit about what they do is that members actually help maintain the hiking trails that make up the Green River College Forest, which actually spans over 250 acres. So they have just keep that nice and tight for everyone who partakes in it, both college students and just community members.
So we are presented with the problem that the Forestry Club faced, which was tracking their club members were tracking their volunteer hours to get credits. And they were having troubles because they were tracking it on paper and then entering it into a manual spreadsheet. This obviously was causing a lot of problems, making it inefficient, causing errors, and also just a lot of wasted time. So the solution was to create a web app that would allow any club member to add their own hours at any time. That way, when they're just done, they could pop out their phone, do it, and they're done. And they would be approved by the leaders.
So our app has a login system that has admin level and basic user level accounts. And one thing that both of these types of users can do is initially sign up and then, of course, log in. And when a basic member logs into the website, they can submit their hours by clicking Submit Hours, which will trigger this pop-up they can fill out with the volunteer day, the time in, and the time out. And once they submit that, they can then click the View Hours button, which will take them to this page, which has a record of all of their volunteer hours.
And then we set up this site tour video to show how it all came together. Just make it a little bit quicker. Yeah. So that was the member side submitting hours, and then this is going to show the admin side. So the admins are able to log in, view all of the members' hours, change between active or inactive members of the club, and edit any of the hour entry, view the hour entries, edit them, change whether they're pending, accepted, or denied, change an hour entry if a member made a mistake when entering it. And then they can also go and see the list of all of the pending hours and accept them. Okay. And then moving on, the future of the project. The Forestry Club leadership was very happy with what they got from us, and they're planning to get in touch with the program again next year and build on the project, create perhaps a front-end website that would then link to this. The front-end website would have information about the Forestry Club and the Natural Resources Program on it, and kind of answer questions for the students who are in the program. Yeah, any questions?
Actually,
Comments?
before we have any questions,
Oh.
I just wanted to say that we wanted to thank Jamie and Janice. They were the main contact points that we had with the Forestry Club. And we also want to thank the Forestry Club in general as they helped us with some accessibility testing. So I just wanted to let that be known because they really helped us out in making this become what it is. And now, any questions?
Yep.
How did you guys handle securing having different levels of user privileges?
Originally, we were going to do or use Firebase for OAuth, and that didn't end up working out. So we had to make our own custom login system. So a lot of it is just checking if the user is logged in. We had to create like a back-end component that checks if their credentials are stored in session storage. And then, yeah, just handle the whole process via our own API.
What was your biggest challenge in this project?
I think probably one of the biggest challenges was the project was done over 2 quarters with 2 different groups, or this partly the same group. We had one group that our first group had 2 members leave and then bringing on new members in the middle of the project, onboarding, just communicating the state of the project, the new technologies they'd be working with. That was probably one of the biggest difficulty hiccups in the whole process of developing the application.
By the way, for the people on Zoom, if you want to come off mute and say anything or post it in the chat, we can address that too.
Don't be shy.
Shy, yeah. Right.
Any other questions?
Oh, wait, there's someone. Oh. I thought it showed a name for a second, so.
It's me, that's from me.
All right, thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. You did a great job. I'm very proud of you. Nice.
Alrighty, hi everyone. We built an AI grader application. So imagine you're a professor or teacher and you want to gauge how your students are doing on following your course lecture, following your work, but you don't want to spend hours of grading. That's exactly the problem that we solved building this application. All right, so what is the AI grader? Well, technically, it's an AI grader tool, and what it does is it takes your CSVs from short answer quizzes from Canvas, and we load that into the application following a prompt that the user can set. And then it goes ahead and exports, and it goes and loads that in, and we get it loads back student grades, and then combines that into class feedback as well. So we get both student and aggregated class feedback. All right, the benefits of this application are actually really big for both students and teachers. So on average, a teacher can take, an hour grading a quiz once a week, let's say. So you have 3 classes, that's over 30 hours total for one teacher, that can really build up. On top of that, as a teacher might want to be able to tell where the class is at, if there's any problems, and kind of adjust the coursework for that. Also to be able to tell if a student, some students have a really hard time speaking for themselves and saying if they're behind, and this can also help the teachers be able to help for that and know what's going on.
Here's an example of the kind of CSV that Canvas will actually export for you. Every student gets their own line, and that line will have multiple questions on it. And this is what our application will mainly be dealing with. And you'll get to see it in action in this demo here. So first things first, we upload the CSV file. And this will take about 30 seconds to run, which we've cut down a little bit for the purposes of this demo. It's just sending a lot of requests back and forth between the AI because there's so many students to grade. And then once it runs, you get all this beautiful feedback, which will go a little more in depth through the rest of our presentation. So the student results it provides, it gives a grade on the right-hand side there, and then it will provide reasoning for that grade. So you're not just getting a random grade with no reasoning for it, because AI can come up with some dumb reasons sometimes. There's a quick copy button over on the right-hand side here too, which teachers can use to copy and paste that information so students can understand why they got that grade. And a really big thing with this too was that the AI is not sent any student information. It's only sent the questions because it has to follow FERPA guidelines for student privacy.
Yeah, so for class-wide feedback, it actually takes all that individual feedback and sends it together one more time to the AI for a big class summary of everything that they did. So we have a summary and then a little suggestion section as well. This is organized by question, and for every question, there's also a awesome histogram that gets you some pretty quick insights into your class feedback. For the history or logs feature, the goal here was to make previous feedback accessible. And this feedback is stored as CSVs locally and organized by time. And if you click on the little folder icon, it takes you, it opens up that folder, and if you select that, it loads it up just like it would have originally. So for our settings menu, the first part of it is for the AI and allows users to add or change an open router API key instead of going down and hunting down for it in the files manually. And then the second part is that it allows users to, sorry. Yeah, it allows users to change the AI model being used to what you might want to do, whether you want to use a more lightweight or intensive model, or just one geared more toward it. And then the other part is for the prompt, which all the prompts, customizable prompts for both individual and the class-wide feedback. And each prompt can be named, saved, and then reloaded and switched to whenever you want.
And what's next for the future of our project? The application is most likely going to be picked up by other students that will continue to work on it, grow from it. Potentially one day the application can actually be integrated into Canvas to be one of the official integrated Canvas applications. You can also add in testing accuracy so that we can test the AI's model grading so you can pinpoint, make it better and better. And potentially also to add a quiz generation feature to kind of make it more of an all in-house application, all in one sort of feature. And we go to the last slide here. Really quickly, before I round off, I'm almost positive I'm about to introduce us when we started off. So I am Colton, this is Sage, this is Dale. We have two members that weren't able to make it today, Gail and Kason. And quick thank you to our client Keller for letting us work on this application. And thank you for all of you. Any questions?
I had a question. Let me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw, so you chose Llama. Did you try different models, or did you feel like like Gemini or?
Absolutely, yeah. So one of the key features of application is it goes through Open Router, which allows which allows a lot of models to be able to use. So the drop-down list on there, it includes currently, I want to say 7 to 8 models you can swap between, and that includes DeepSeek, Llama, multiple different models, and it's also pretty easy to swap those out and add more models as you go as well.
Did you notice that one was giving better like answers or responses, or not really?
I would say I definitely noticed. I didn't notice that any were bad. The DeepSeek one was pretty good from what I noticed. I would say the basic one we used was the 3.3 Llama, I want to say, because it was a really good quick one, and that was kind of our default. Most of you just how quick and easy to use it was, I suppose.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
It was just if there was any cost associated.
Oh, no, kind of a user choice. Built in right now, all of the models you on the selection list are free models. So all you need is an open router API key. You might have to swap out your API key depending on use and hit your limit. But if you want, you can pay and you can use the premium open router models for those optional.
Creative. I recognize some of the routes. When I use and stuff, so we can use like Python.
Yeah, so the app it's as a whole is written in Python, and the histograms are made in Matplotlib, which we all used in a lot of the classes here, so it's pretty familiar.
Every now and then, I think our expectations had to match up and line up as we were just kind of going through. But it was mostly a good time. It was mostly fun.
It's exactly what you wanted, yeah.
Yeah, I guess speaking from personal experience working with AI models, I can imagine it's probably pretty challenging to go from the sort of like unstructured data to the structured data where like the AI wants to sort of spit out a predicted response, but you need to wrangle it into actual numbers that show up in histograms, which is pretty cool. I'm just curious, like what part of that work was like challenging? How did you approach that?
Not for the histograms alone, we'll get to the histograms. A lot of it was definitely structured putting into the data frame. A lot of the issues I know we kept having was if we fixed one bug, we would like, let's say we were like, oh, something happened, well, we don't have a grade show. We'd go and fix that, and then suddenly we wouldn't have names. Or we'd go and fix the names, we wouldn't have like grades. And so a lot of it was kind of, it would have all the time keeping everything in there at the same time. I'd say it just kind of took a lot of time, a lot of trial and practice, a lot of paying attention is the biggest thing. We just had to keep rechecking to make sure everything was there and go fix it every time. I think it's unless you had more specific about the histograms themselves with them as well. I think
the histograms came together pretty easily because I know Dale did a lot of work with the AI prompt to get it really finagled into something good.
After it, it's pretty predictable. We're doing a lot with one prompt, so it was pretty finicky getting it to work. But for the most part,
So
yes.
with the output from the prompt from the AI, did you use structured return types or tool calling or any of that? Or did you just get it with text and then parse it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's good. So the prompt itself is just basic text, I think mostly, but it does end up going through a data frame and process through it to JSON. And that lets it go through to OpenRouter and kind of goes through the entire thing and exports into a CSV built from the data frame.
It turns it into a structured format.
Yeah.
So it outputs structured data?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it's outputting as a comma separated value.
Oh, yeah, but.
So in the prompt, you're telling it to export as a comma separated value.
Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah.
English. I'm assuming with the models themselves, they would probably be able to, because the models themselves probably just have the built-in capabilities. Well, we've never tested that, and that could have been a good thing, a good stress test for something to test in. But I'm pretty sure the models themselves could probably be able to handle that if it detected something else going in. Anything else? All good? Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, we are Team Overthink. I am Kaylee. We have Levi, Rashad, and Blake. We worked on a philosophy webpage this quarter with our client, Rebecca. She is a professor here at Green River, and she has her own professional webpage that has educational content for her students in regards to philosophy. The issue that we worked on this quarter was improving one web page that she has full of 14 different topics in relation to philosophy. If we were to scroll through this web page, it's listed each topic within 4 to 10 different groupings, and it's very scattered and very lengthy. So she wanted to improve it by making it into one single web page that you don't have to scroll through. I'll pass it off to Levi to discuss why.
So why the philosophy website? So as you can see, the previous page, there was lots of links. It was kind of hard to navigate. So our client wanted improved navigation, accessibility, and a website that would work on any device. So our goal was to create a community-based, responsive, and inclusive website. So we use Google Sites to build our website. Well, it was an already existing Google website. So what was good about it was it gave us free hosting and built-in security, but it lacked support for back-end functionality. And it had limited data analytic options. So I'm going to pass it on to Rashad, talk about the typical user.
Yeah, so who are the users? Students who can use it, explore different lessons and topics. Teachers can use it for education. And also developers can fork and repurpose it for other educational content areas. And there are approximately 600 students at Green River College access the contents of the web. And also there are several other philosophy teachers use it for their classes. And I'll pass it to Rick.
So some challenges and solutions. So one challenge, there's no budget. So finding free resources. We originally wanted to do a screen grab of it. So if she updated something, it would update on the module pictures, but we had to hard code everything and make her a tutorial on how to do that since we wanted some things free. Again, Google Sites has restrictions. So we were limited on how we did this because we were putting our Google site in her slide. So something I was really trying to do is accessibility. So the screen reader, we wanted to make sure that that would work. So I made a bunch of ARIA tags and then alt tags on the pictures, so it would say what everything was. We also wanted to optimize the link behavior by just being able to tab to enter for everything. So you could tab through the different chapters and modules, and when you press enter, it goes to the active site link. So a little demo that Kaylee is going to do.
So to show the solution to the original web page, now all 14 topics are listed on the left-hand side and it's all on one page. If we were to hover over the topic that we want to choose, it's in yellow. And once we select it, it is now highlighted in yellow, so you know you're on that topic. If you hover over each part or chapter, the image expands, and this is a glimpse as to what the website will look like when you select it. As for the accessibility, if we were to select tab, you can see the white highlighted area is the one we are currently selected on. And if we press enter, the yellow then changes to that highlighted area. And we can continue selecting tab to then go through each part to see which one we want to choose. And if we press enter to read more, it will then redirect us to that website that we chose and will give us the information on the topic we want to learn about. Any questions?
Not exactly a question, but I just want to point out that I like that when you press enter to open the section, it'll open it in a new tab rather than just take you.
It's funny you say that, because originally she wanted it to open in the same part of the site, but because it's a Google site, we couldn't embed it if she wanted. So I like that. Any other question?
You guys briefly explain just what is an ARIA label in a screen reader? Why do I care about that as like a student accessing this site?
Yeah, so a screen reader would make it so if someone can't see, they're still able to navigate the site by just tabbing through it rather than having to see where the cursor's at. And again, it's just so that anybody that's a student here will be able to use the site, not just people that can see well and all that.
Any Zoom questions? All right, thank you. You all in the back want to move up a few rows, we won't bite you or anything. There's this like chasm in the middle of the room.
Thank you. All right, hello, everybody. We are the nursing chatbot team. My name is Lois and this is Mason. Dia unfortunately couldn't make it here tonight, but she did record her slides, so you will be seeing her in the presentation. All right, so we're the nursing chatbot team, but let me tell you a little bit more about what that actually means. I'll start by focusing on the nursing part of that. So our clients are the nursing program at Green River College. They handle certificates, programs, events, workshops, and degrees. They are really busy. They handle a lot. But unfortunately, they've realized that there's a problem, that they're just getting a lot of emails. And a lot of those emails are about information that's already publicly available on the GRC websites. Unfortunately, there is a lot of information to sort through on those websites, and it can be really confusing to navigate. So the solution that they came up with is a chatbot. There is only one link to find instead of going through a rabbit hole of tabs or buttons or links, and it's really easy to ask questions. So that's why we're here. We've been working with the nursing program the past 2 quarters on this chatbot. And through various meetings, we have come up with 3 main objectives for this chatbot. The first is we want it to be able to answer questions well. We want it to be able to understand questions that's being asked, as well as answer in a way that is clear, easy to understand, and isn't just like a block of text, because that can be really overwhelming. The second one, let me move this down here so you can actually see. The second one is we want it to give accurate information. So chatbots can be really prone to giving misinformation, which is really, really bad for something like this. So we want to make sure that it's giving information that is up to date and not misleading. And part of that is making sure that it is getting information from the GRC websites. Now, unfortunately, the chatbot is sometimes unable to answer questions. For example, if it's not related to the nursing program, or if it's just about information that's not already publicly available to the GRC website. So if that is the case, then we want to give them an email to the nursing program. And then I'm going to let Dia talk a little bit more about how we actually did this. So let me get that video.
So Dia already talked about it a little bit, but there is misinformation and we have an admin side which can potentially remove a little bit of that. And we have 3 actions that we're going to do, and you can add information on this. So you can add any question and answer. So it's like, let's say it's not on the website, you can add that and it'll be able to answer that now. And you could manually reload. It only updates like once a month right now. If they need to update it like the day of, because they just made a big change saying new dates and such, they can press a button that'll update it that day. And update links. So let's say there's more links that they want to scrape from. They can add those, or let's say links are outdated now, they can also remove them. I'll show you a little bit of examples. This is the add information where you can put in the question and they can put in the answer, where they can add the new question and answer. And you could go to, this is the reload button. So if they need to actually manually reload it, this is what it would look like. And this would be updating links. So there's a little remove button if they do not like that link anymore, and there is an adding button that they can add any link. Anyways, we're going to say thank you to the nursing program for allowing us to work on this. And any questions?
With the nursing program, my name's Coral. I just wanted to say thank you guys for working with us for the past 2 quarters on this. I think I was late to almost every single one of our meetings, so thank you for bearing with us. And you've done a great job. So, and thanks for inviting me tonight.
Coral, how hard will it be to get a link to this from the nursing, the GRC nursing website?
It shouldn't be that hard because I have access as a content editor, content manager, there's the word.
Nice.
For the website currently. So once we're ready, we can just put on the
That's great.
launch it. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
In that web scraping process, how are you, is there any, how often does that run? Does that only run when they click a button? Does it like re-scrape sites periodically if information changes? How does that work?
So right now it updates monthly, and they can press the button to update it that day of.
How does that process take?
It takes like 10 minutes to scrape them all. But I think it's a little bit faster now that Dia made it so that it doesn't scrape all of it and re-upload it all. It checks if it already exists. If it's the same information, it'll go a little bit faster.
That's nice.
Yes.
So you scrape it, which I guess means downloading the HTML and using some tools to clean it up. But then what do you do with it, having scraped it? Where do you store it? And then how does the AI, the LLM, know about that scraped data?
So we scrape it and we feed it into a vector database. And that is where we extract all the information from. It'll let the AI be able to read it.
Which vector database?
We're using something from DataStax right now. It's just a hosting provider that we're using.
How are you scheduling the monthly update? Is that a, how are you doing that?
I did not work on the monthly update stuff, so maybe someone to answer that.
It's just not really sure.
There's some sort of program in there that's running all of that. I'm not quite sure exactly what Dia used.
Any question? How hard would it be to transition this to another domain department? It'd be pretty straightforward. Just give a bunch of new links.
Give a bunch of new links and change the prompt a bit. Because the prompt is very specific on the nursing.
But nothing on the back end. It's just updating everything that an admin could update everything, right?
We cannot update the prompt.
Oh, okay. You'd have to do that. Got it. I can see something like this being very, very marketable. Very, very marketable. If you want to make a little extra money over the summer. Any other questions? Awesome, thank you.
Actually, before we start their mid-teams, we're just gonna take like a 5-minute break here. We're a little bit ahead of schedule and we have a time blocks that people might be showing up for, so we can reconvene at like 7:05. Yeah.
That's 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it's almost 7, that clock's not right.
Oh, it's like 7 or 8.
It is 7, it's better.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So it's 6:57. You want to do like a 7-minute?
And thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming, Coral.
I was like. Yes, thank you, thank you. Have a good night, you guys.
Yeah. For anyone on Zoom right now, we're breaking just for a few minutes to stay on schedule. We got a little bit ahead, so we'll be reconvening at 7:05 to continue these.
Yeah. So do you two know each other? Okay.
Nice, not bad.
You go over to Levi?
Better than I expected. Yeah, actually, it was good.
All together.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Yeah, we're.
Oh.
Yeah.
I only remember just. I feel like it's already bad. Well, it's by the time it's like this. Oh, that's cute. But you know, it's like. Space force. Oh, I'm like, space force, space force. Thanks. That's a. That's a. If I'm ready to throw away my. And get a
I'm okay.
Really thanks to this, like, educational. Yeah, just the team. Like a median to like. You kind of just. So. Very. You're pretty much fighting everyone else for like a first spot at the top. I'd rather just have like.
I closed the Zoom bar. Can you just make sure? I don't think I killed anything. I think I just hit it. But can you just make sure it's still working on your laptop? Okay. Just want to make sure I didn't inadvertently break in.
I've never seen it vanish completely like that.
It has a little hide. It had a hide. It had a, the little dot.
I wonder where all the controls are now, because I see that, but.
We don't need them though, right?
No, you don't, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know how you get them back.
Yeah. Me either.
What? Yeah. Kevin's here.
Yeah, we should be good to, if the, what is it, is it Mint Dagster up next? You guys wanna get that up?
I've been doing it for years.
We're doing the right thing. Not the links, so I think that's worth that. Nothing about the racing. I just we're doing the right thing. YouTube, I would click to go live, but say going live. Yeah, so it's being recorded, we'll upload it to YouTube afterwards, and next year I will, that's much more heavily. No, it's, I should test on everything when they get to. I should try rehearsal also. And so don't think I'll get like, sure, you know, YouTube is Zoom meetings, right? Yeah. I think. All right, I think we're gonna continue with these, so. Go ahead, guys, take it away.
Hello, we are the Dagster team, Get to the Choppa, and my name is David.
I'm Eugene.
I'm Vlad. So Dagster, what it is a data orchestrator, used by over 800 companies, 20 to 30,000 users. And what it's used for is basically to organize your data pipelines, make them more efficient. And imagine you are a baker, as an example. You want to make sure that your process of baking is in the correct order and efficient. So you make the dough, bake it into bread, and then package it up for shipment or sale or whatever you're doing as part of one of your 800 companies. So Dagster does that except with data. So whether it's a sales transactions for your bakery or cleaning your database tables, running analysis on your data. And so if you have an issue with part of your process, such as you forget an ingredient or you package up your dough before baking or something like that, that is where your backfills come in. And we're going to explain that.
Yeah, so let's talk about the issue that we worked on for this project. So our issue had to do with backfills and partitions. And David's already mentioned what a backfill is, so we need to understand what a partition is. Going back to the baking example, you can think of a partition as the container for whatever you're baking. And in Dagster, let's say you have a data job that is running daily. You have a job that collects data and stores it every single day. A partition is basically that daily container that stores the data. What our issue is asking, users want the ability to customize how these partitions are processed and stored when you launch a backflow. That's what we worked on this quarter. And here is a small little visual example of what the users are asking. So previously, every single partition, the configuration for them are always JSON based. And here before, every single partition would have a default value, which you could change, but it was very difficult to do it for all the partitions that you selected. And what they wanted is for every single partition that you select, you have your own override value for each one. Forward, this is the UI that we implemented. So this red rectangle here is what we added. So previously this was not here, and you were only able to select the partitions and just click submit run, and it would just use the default value. And with this addition, you're able to, using a JSON format, specify a config for every single partition that you select up here. And it does have validation in place to make sure that is JSON, otherwise it would break it. Yeah.
So for some of our accomplishments, setting up the development environment, that was a hard process at the beginning, getting that done. With the documentation that Daxter had on it, as far as Mac and Windows, it was easier for me, but I know with Windows, there were some problems. Making a change to the Daxter UI was a big one, especially with trying to find out where we make that change at and going through all the files in the code base. And the back end receiving and storing with the user inputs on the front end and getting our draft PR submitted with all of our changes. And for some of our roadblocks, the setup, as I mentioned, that was a long process for some of us. As far as what is all this, it was a very large code base. So I know for myself personally, I haven't worked in a code base that had as many files that Daxter has. So it was very confusing. And whenever we first made our UI changes, I had and David had problems getting it to show up. And the daemon not running, which means making the backfills go through, and the response time after we submitted our draft PR from the maintainer.
So once we submitted that draft PR, it took some time getting it, but the feedback that we got was that they appreciated the effort we put into getting the configuration for each partition, but it wasn't exactly what they had in mind for the future. What they thought would be more useful would be to have one configuration for all of the partitions as opposed to each individual, because if you do each individual, there could be thousands of partitions for an asset. And to do a configuration, each one of those would take a very, very long time if you needed to select hundreds or thousands. So they thought that one configuration for all of the selected partitions would be a better way to go for that. And that would be the simplified recommendation from the maintainers.
Just to end the presentation, we'd like to thank both Team and Keller. We'd also like to thank our mentors, Charles and Sriniwas, as well as Code Day and Mint for having this program happen, and the rest of the Green River software development faculty members. Well, thank you. Any questions?
Given the feedback you received that they wanted one configuration for all the partitions, is that something you could have, should have known sooner? Is there a way you could have, I mean, it sounds like you did a lot of work that you didn't need to do in retrospect. Is there any way that you could have avoided that? Or was that just part of the inevitable process?
Or maybe you could have tried getting into contact earlier, but reading through users' comments on the issue, it seemed pretty clear that what they wanted, but I guess for some reason.
The maintainers have just a different vision of how, and their vision is clearly better. They have more experience with this.
Yeah.
But we thought that the users, there was a lot of users that wanted this issue to be solved. So we thought we had enough information to work with.
I'm wondering if this is just a downside of working on an open source project, as opposed to like, oh, here's my prototype, what do you think? Is this what you actually want? No, okay. Let's pivot before we spend 1 billion hours implementing this thing,
Yeah, I guess
right?
it's always kind of a risk. Spending a lot of time on not necessarily exactly
Yeah,
what somebody has in mind. Without feedback. If we had more time, then we could probably implement this.
Yeah, from the issue on GitHub with the users wanted and explained, it was different than the feedback we got.
yeah.
So
They update the issue for like what they actually want to like make it clearer, I guess, for people. So,
I don't believe so. They did close our PR and they did ask if we do have extra time, they'd love to talk more with us and possibly get their version working. But I don't think they updated the actual issue yet.
Do any of you plan on continuing work on this? Have any interest in continuing it?
I might, if I have extra time, I'd love to take a look at it, but yeah, still deciding on it.
I would like to, but probably won't.
How long do you think it would take to transition from what you did to what they want now?
It doesn't seem like it'd be that tough, because the way we have it now is we're selecting partitions, so we would just need to have one input field instead of one for each.
Right.
The other question?
Anything from the Zoom side? I know we have a bunch of people here now.
Questions about the Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Well, personally, I really hope that at least one of you will decide to carry this forward. You sounds like you've done the hard part. At this point, you're just basically scaling back. And it'd be really cool to see this thing through to fruition, given all the time and effort you've already put into it. I hate to see it just languish. Code, what's that place called? Purgatory. Purgatory. No Zoom questions?
No questions. I mean, Kevin said some things that I think are super true that I can reiterate in the chat, which is that, yeah, this is a very typical process, right? You know, dealing with things and you see this all the time, like real world software engineering roles where you build one thing, you just actually use it this way, they actually use it this way. It turns out when we review the PR, people have different opinions. It's very real to the process, how large scale projects work. So, cool.
I would add that it's not just open source too. This happens in industry all the time.
All right, thank you.
Hi, everyone. We're Team Deja Vu. This quarter, we worked on the Min open source project called Bootstrap Unix. My name is Will. This is Noah and Jack. And then our teammate Huey couldn't make it today because he had recently started his new internship at Costco. So what is Bootstrap Unix? It is a free tool that developers can use to build interactive and polished websites. It uses two main technologies. The first is Vue 3 for dynamic features, like making the website instantly load when the user interacts with the content. And then Bootstrap 5 for pre-designed elements like buttons, forms, layouts, and much more. The tool is widely used with approximately 26,700 downloads per week with over 1.6 million downloads. Our goals for the project were to add features to a shared project that developers use across the world, improve how certain components work so there's more customization, and then learn and practice modern web technologies by working with an unfamiliar and large code base. So why is it important? It helps developers build cleaner websites with less effort. It supports teams that are transitioning from the previous version, Vue 2 and Bootstrap 4. And then it contributes back to a library that many people rely on. So the first feature that we worked on was the badge offset for the B avatar component. The badge is that little dot that indicates a user's online status or an unread notification. So on the right, you can see an example. By changing the value, you can move the badge inward and outward. And this small feature gives flexibility for the developers to customize their designs. So the second feature we got to work on was ARIA Live, adding that feature to the B-form tags component. ARIA Live is a screen reader tool for ARIA, which is just an accessibility tool that people use. ARIA Live provides feedback for dynamic content changes and like updates to the page. So it also has the attributes that can change how urgently it announces those changes. So what we added was really only like 4 lines of code in the actual thing. Most of it was already implemented. We were just finishing up this feature. We added the validation check. So ARIA helps narrate out the changes and for the errors. And it uses the tags for our feature. We use the tags to give error messages. So like it has to be a valid tag. It can't be a duplicate, and it needs to be between 3 and 8 tags. The attributes that it can do is assertive, polite, and off. Those are just the different urgencies that it announces the things. And yeah.
The B4 rating is customizable star rating input, built specifically for form submission. The component consists of 2 modes. The interactive mode allowed the user to pick a rating, typically range from 1 to 5 star, using whole number increment. Second mode is the read-only mode, which is used for aggregated rating value. It also supports precision, which means it can display like 3.7 or 4.5 stars. When we initially receiving this issue, it was quite intimidating because we have to migrate 17 features from the old version into the new code base written in the new language. In order to do this, we modified and created 28 different files and wrote 1,225 lines of code. And as of last night, we are able to publish and it's live right now for all the other teams. Awesome.
So just a big thank you to David and Ling, who are our mentors for this project. They were very responsive, and the reason we were able to do as much as we were able to and actually get the PRs accepted and reviewed. So thank you guys so much. It was a great project. Any questions or comments?
All the different things you worked on, all these different issues, what was the most challenging and why? Seems like you touched on a couple of different areas.
I would say that it would be the B form rating, just because, like, as we mentioned, it had we had 13 features that we had implemented, and though they were small, we had to start from like the ground up. So it took a lot of looking at the previous versions, like making sure we keep up to date with like the current technologies that we have now. It was a big challenge, but it was very rewarding considering how much we got done.
Can you talk a little bit about how you used the Rabbit AI to do initial code reviews and how useful that was for you?
Yeah, so we didn't know about CodeRabbit AI until, well, David mentioned it, and it was a very useful tool. It's really cool that it goes through all the files and it has these things called like nitpicky comments. So it's like, hey, this is missing this, or hey, we can add just like this single line of code to improve it. So I would say that it was very useful because with the 1,200 lines of code that we added, it's very hard to like detect some of these small things. And there were major changes as well that we had to make. I can't remember specifically what they were, but it guided us in the right direction, which was super helpful.
It was also nice to get instant feedback when submitting like a draft pull request. We wouldn't have to wait for anyone to review and give us feedback. The AI gave it out before, and so we were able to start working on that immediately, and that helped a lot.
Did you have to resolve all of the CodeRabbit like nitpicky comments that it had before someone manually review it, or were there some that you could ignore, or how did that work?
I would say that we did address pretty much all of them. David did mention to like really read through all of the nitpicky comments and make sure that they're like relevant or like if they're necessary. But ultimately, like the maintainers kind of like look over, and if we did miss something important, then they would sort of like mention that. But we didn't experience that.
About merging with each other's code. We're all working on the same code.
So it was definitely a challenge because I don't think all of us are super familiar with, well, first off, we had 4 different branches, so 4 different versions of the project. So it took a while because we had to use like GitHub like UI interface to like edit individual files, and it had basically multiple like versions of the code. So it took a lot of time to go through it, but it was interesting and kind of fun, but it was definitely a challenge for sure.
You'll be able to do that if you run into it again.
I think it'll take less time for sure. Yeah, when you're running through like 28 files, like it takes a really long time.
Good question from Kevin in the chat here. Is there anything you guys learned that was different from previous class projects that you did, or what was the sort of biggest thing out of this process that you understand now?
At least for me, the biggest change working on like a Mint project and an open source project was adhering to the code base standards, and you don't just get to do whatever you want. You have to follow the guidelines and the rules and everything. And so just staying within that and figuring out, oh, what are the code standards and how can we adhere to them, even when creating something new and figuring it out was probably the most.
Thanks, guys.
Hello there, everyone. I'm Jared. We've got Braden on the other side of the projector screen. We've got Sage behind here running the slides, and we are the Eclipse commits. For our capstone project, we have been working on Mint's open source IDE project Eclipse. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Braden, who will explain a little bit more of that.
Alright, so what is Eclipse? Eclipse is an open source development environment that is pretty on the heavy side, I would like to say, other than like your lightweight alternatives like VS Code. It's mainly used for building Java projects. It apparently was used in the International Space Station, automotive industries, and a few other ones. So it has around 4.5 million downloads per release, which is pretty good. And it's commonly kind of repurposed for companies that kind of create custom tooling and whatnot. I'd say is one of its big players these days. That is used by leveraging the Eclipse PDE.
Yeah, so one subsection that we worked on in this project was the Eclipse plugin development environment. And what that kind of means is this is a space where developers can actually go and create plugins or add-ons for Eclipse that other developers can then import and use in their projects. These are like additional features or kind of enhancements to the IDE that developers can create and kind of use. And so that's kind of where our first feature that we worked on kind of lived. We worked to kind of build, well, I guess what the ask was from the maintainers was they have the ability for them to kind of specify a version for a plugin. And previously what they had to do was they had to kind of manually type in a version. They wanted us to kind of simplify that process and have it so that instead there would be 3 buttons that they could click to kind of increment the version up by 1. So that way they don't have to worry about manually typing. So here is kind of the solution that we came up with. On the left, you can see the before, kind of this is what it looked like. There's a text box where they'd have to click and then type their version number in. And on the right side, that is our solution that we came up with. There's 3 buttons where you can actually click them and it'll up the respective version number by 1. And the kind of end result that we end up with was that we made these changes. We kind of brought it back to the maintainer and requested them to kind of look at it. They liked mostly what we had come up with, but they requested a few additional changes. Some things were like kind of adhering to their code guidelines, and then like potentially disabling the buttons if there's no version typed in yet, or if it's an invalid version type. So we decided to implement those changes that they requested, and we brought it back to them again, and we're still kind of awaiting the end result of that.
So one thing you'll notice, to establish a little context, while Sage was explaining that first feature that we worked on, he routinely used the word "we." That is because as a group, we all worked together on that one particular feature. And once that feature reached a point of stability where we believe that for the most part, the code work itself was done and it was mostly a matter of maintenance, Braden and I then split off to begin working on our own features. For my feature in particular, the person requesting it was asking for custom splash screen functionality. For those of you who are a bit less technically inclined, a splash screen is when you launch a program, there's sometimes a little icon that just appears on the screen, on your computer screen, before the program actually starts. That is a splash screen. So when I was poking around in the code base, I noticed the functionality was already actually there. However, due to the way Eclipse works under the hood, there's some logic funkiness that messes with the actual ability of the program to read custom splash screens. So this is something I'm still currently in the process of working on. Currently, the idea is just focus on messing around a bit with some of those default program arguments. From here, I'll pass it off to Braden.
All right, so I kind of split off, unbeknownst to myself, actually, when I was choosing my other issue. We were all originally kind of working on the plugin development environment repository on the Eclipse platform. The Eclipse platform has like a lot of repositories. This is another one of them. So Eclipse Platform UI, it is a runtime UI framework, provides UI elements like views, editors, perspectives, commands, menus, toolbars, windows. It's used by pretty much all the Eclipse application kind of use it for UI. And so My issue was a little bit weird. Can you move that?
Yeah.
bar a little bit? So there was a find and replace tool within Eclipse. And a user was trying to kind of put in a regular expression. It's like a way of searching for recurring things within a file and put in this like caret space, which is gonna like, it was supposed to select all leading spaces. And he wanted to like just remove one space from the front of each line. And so you see there's like a space right there. So when he would basically find that all those spaces and then he would replace it with just one space, this is what would end up happening before the fix. It would just it would basically recursively find every single space leading up to that line and remove it. And they did not think that was expected behavior. The maintainers agreed. And so basically my fix just, as you can see, that little A doesn't have a space in front of it. A very slight change, but that's how it functions now. So I was able to get a pull request submitted and there's still a few issues with my, basically he just needed me to like rebase and squash all my commits into one. And then once I do that, I'll get some more feedback, but I like it might be able to get merged, so.
So that was a lot. There's a lot going on here, but what are some of the outcomes of this? Well, as mentioned before, Eclipse is a massive piece of software, living, breathing, out there in the real world. Users all over the globe, user base estimated in the millions. So the features that we focus on, if they were to get merged, they will be benefiting millions of people all around the world, speaking a number of different languages from a number of different cultures. Beyond that, we also gained a bit of experience with real world skills that will help us out, namely responding to stakeholders and presenting our findings and work, the teamwork dynamic, getting a little bit more familiar with continuous integration and continuous development pipelines, and getting a bit more comfortable diving into massive code bases. I'd also like to take a moment to thank quite a few people. Let's start out with our mentors, Ashwin Sankaran and Dan Snell. I'd also like to thank everybody from Mint, everybody from Code Day, all of the Green River software development staff, the Eclipse community, and last but certainly not least, all of you who are here with us today, physically in the crowd, on Zoom, and those of you who will no doubt be watching the recording sometime in the future. I like to think I speak for everyone here today when I say it means a lot that you came out to listen to us tonight. Are there any questions or comments from the crowd? Yes?
Are you going to continue to shepherd your pull requests through?
So the question was whether or not we will continue working on our pull requests. I know that for me personally, I will continue working on my issue until I get it completed.
For me, the version incrementing one, definitely. It's basically kind of just small tweaks that the maintainers want. So it's basically in a completed state and just some small changes and it should be merged, I think. So yeah, I definitely want to round it out, finish it.
Yeah, like very close. You know, it's silly to walk away from it now. And honestly, like with some of the other Mint projects, there's like really big code bases, takes a long time to understand. Feel kind of weird just kind of leaving the whole project and sit in the dust when it's like I need open source experience to put on my portfolio. It's like I'll probably end up trying to choose another issue when it time allows, rather than try to learn a whole new code base.
Any questions in Zoom?
I have one. Was there anything, I guess like you were writing code for the editor that you write code in. And I'm just curious, like in that process, did anything interesting or surprising come up in working on that about how editors work, about your experience working out with the thing that writes that you used to write the thing?
So the question was about we're writing code in the editor that we're using to create the editor. Any oddities we ran into? One thing I noticed in particular was that pretty much every time we felt the code was good to go, we would then need to export a build of Eclipse and then test out the behavior of the editor itself to see, does it work or did we break something horrifically?
Yeah, I would say, I would echo that. Testing it was probably the most difficult portion. trying to build the project. Definitely ran into several issues sometimes where the build just, it wouldn't work and we'd have to start from scratch and try to fix it. And that took up a lot of time trying to make that work out. I imagine with probably a lot of other projects, testing it is probably a lot easier for them, but for us, it was sometimes really challenging.
They call that eating your own dog.
For me, it was kind of like really, I don't think I had any idea on what to expect on how to like kind of see the changes we were making. And so when we hit that wall, it's like definitely didn't know what we were doing. And I think we actually had to reach out to a code day TA.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, okay, so like here's Eclipse and like the SDK that you're working on, and like and here's like the run configuration and the repository. It's like a lot going on there. And it was really confusing, but now it makes a lot of sense.
Awesome. Any other questions?
Thank you.
That's the last of our teams, I believe, unless I missed someone, but pretty sure that's everyone. Yeah, thank you for joining us for the Capstone showcases. We really appreciate everyone being here. Thank you to everybody on Zoom for bearing with us as we give you new links like 10 seconds before the meeting starts. It's great you guys were able to make it. And thanks to all the Code Day mentors or clients who were able to come. It's been awesome. And you guys did amazing at presenting. These were great projects. I really enjoyed watching them. Presentations were awesome. Yeah, anything to say, Tina?
Hey, Ross. Thank you all for being here, and I look forward to seeing most of you at graduation tomorrow.
Awesome, great. Thanks, guys.
Keller, can I?
Wait, sorry. You want to say something, Kevin? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so it was really great seeing everybody.
One second, sorry, 1 second. I ended slightly early. 1 second.
Oh,
Wait.
So just thank everybody. Thanks to everybody who worked on this. This is what is that, year number 5 of us doing this. And so it's always great to see all of the student projects and the mentor help and our work with the faculty. And this is where I think a lot of students mentioned there's so many files, there's so much complexity, and there's so much to be done, and the part that they play versus kind of the overall product itself. I think there's quite a few projects that I'm like, yep, that's a perfect internship that's a perfect intern project. I've seen very similar things done at companies I worked at. And if you can do complete it, like everybody knows what Eclipse is, and whoever did the regex, man, what a perfect project. Like all of the things, find, replace, all of that stuff, that's going to be bread and butter of somebody's technical interview questions for sure. And as well as seeing folks being able to manage the complexity, being a part of a software engineering team, learning about what a software engineering process is like. The Eclipse team know what an IDE, like working the IDE, using an IDE, very, very meta there. And the Daxter team, things not working, not what you expect it to work, figuring out the intended implementation and the specs and what customers or end users actually end up using. That's very real world. I'm glad everyone had a chance to get a sneak peek into, as you transition from a student to a software engineer, what that is going to be really like. So, and thanks to everybody who pitched in to make this happen.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Yeah. All right, I'm getting the recording now. I'm good to go. Yeah. See ya.
High five.